tremendous looking trophy.
Welcome to Platinum Explosion, number one PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Dylan Blight, and joining me, as always, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be finally here.
Is that a...
Yeah, that was a really bad pun.
Yeah. Oh, fine. Okay, yeah, I get you. That was horrible. In the trophy cabinet this week, a bronze trophy for The Last of Us being delayed. Oh no, silver trophy for Ghost of Tsushima not being delayed. Oh, that's the thing. The gold trophy for apparently the PS5 isn't delayed either, but everyone's like, maybe it is now because of The Last of Us, and Ash will be like, oh, I fucking love being right about stuff. And we hit a platinum for Final Fantasy VII Remake. We've played it. It's not delayed. There's all your delays and not delayed update.
It's the opposite of delayed, technically.
Yeah, the opposite of delayed. It's actually fucking out on my shelf. So, quickly to go over that, last week, obviously, we called the episode, hey, it may come out like tomorrow, or it may come out like early next week, just 5 days prior to release kind of thing. It came out the next day. It came out the day the episode dropped, like literally like 24, less than 24 hours after we recorded and said, hey, it might be out tomorrow. So that was quite funny. I mean, I wasn't annoyed, but it was funny. Annoyed. So I went and picked up my copy and apologized to the person at EB Games for being outside, and I felt bad about it. But you know what? Everyone. Here's the thing: if there were lots of people in the store, I would have just waited. You know, like waited across the street, did something, you know. Like I keep seeing these stories about people lining up in lines outside EB Games to pick up things and whatever else. I'm like, no, this is what's going to cause all the stores to get delayed. Anyway, sidetracked. Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's out. I've played it. I've got a review up, explosionnetwork.com. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I did finish it that fast. It took me 38 hours. That was because I didn't really sleep over the last couple of days, but we got there and we did it, and it's a thing. So my overall impressions of it are, it's really hard to talk about because I'm just gonna put this out of the way. As soon as everyone finishes the game, everyone is just going to be talking about the ending, like without going into spoilers of that. I definitely feel like it's a game, especially for people who have played the original. As soon as they're done, everything will just be on the ending and where the sequels could go and like what story direction they're going to take and how many games do we think it's going to be and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's where all the conversation is going to be. And that's why as soon as I sit down and I want to talk about it, all I want to really talk about is the ending. And it's been really annoying the last couple of days since I finished it. I've had no one to talk about the fucking ending with. I'm like, did anyone finish this thing? And that's why I wrote in our Slack the other day and then basically talked Nick into getting the game. So I'm like, hurry up and finish it, Nick. Fucking need to talk to someone. Anyway, overall, it is really good. It is, as I said in my review, equally the worst and best way to experience Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, because it's obviously a beautiful game. It looks way better than the PS1 one, and that's going to be a high turn-off point for a lot of people. We get way more time with a lot of these
that's
characters.
going to be a turn-off that it looks beautiful?
No, that's not it. These are pluses. Come on. These are the pluses. These are the reasons people may play this over the original. You get way longer in this section of the game. So pretty much the entirety of this game, the 38 hours, is 4 hours in the original game. And that's kind of hard to comprehend. Like, how does a 4-hour section get stretched to 38? And it's because they add heaps of new stuff, side quests, they extend missions, they add missions, they've added boss fights, they've added a lot of shit and completely extended this section of the game. For the better, it really gives you a lot more time to get to know all of these characters, Barrett, Tifa, Aerith, even the side characters that you don't really spend much time with, which is Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, the other three Avalanche members. You don't really spend time with those at all in the main game. They're there at the start, and you can kind of talk to them when you get back to Sector 7, but like you don't do stuff with them. And in this game, you do like tag along on these other missions and whatever else with them. So that's really cool to extend those characters. And I think it adds a lot to this section of the game, given what this story eventually ends up going through, and it adds emotional weight to a lot of stuff that happens in this game. So that's really cool. Aerith in this game is so much better. I mean, it's not like she was a terrible character in the original, but I'd say they definitely improved on her a lot because she just comes across straight away as less of like a floaty, whimsical kind of weird flower girl, more of just like hey, she's just straight up heart of gold, nice lady trying to help out people. And like the first time you meet her, you just find out that she's helping all these kids and all these sorts of stuff. So straight away, she just comes across as you're like, oh, she's not like some weird lady. She's just this nice lady who was in this church randomly. The combat is, I think the combat is good, but my major problem with it, as I wrote about in my review, is that I think the AI for your teammates is pretty shit house, and that began to annoy me more so in the harder boss fights, and also when I tried playing the game on hard. So, like, the basics of combat, pressing square, attacking, and then building up your ATB bar, and then being able to pause the moment and assign abilities and spells, and everyone's ATB bars are building up. So it's like this nice cross between the original game and also making it a more live hack and slashy action game. I think it's a really cool concept, and most of the time it really works. However, I just would get so annoyed when I would be over. I basically just want to play as Cloud most of the time if I want to. Like, I don't want to have to be forced to switch between characters, and that's kind of and when one of the only other characters has the spell necessary to fucking kill the enemies, and they're not just using it, and I actually have to go switch to them, build up their ATB bar fast, because apparently they weren't attacking him, and they're just fucking blocking, and it's building up so slow, and then be able to use the spells. I'm like, why weren't you doing this? Why isn't the AI in this smart enough? I would say that AI in Kingdom Hearts 3 with Donald and Goofy is actually better than this game.
That's what I'd say. I think it needs, in those games, you can like set what you want your partners to be doing. Like
heal heaps, attack heaps, mix of both.
If they had included that somewhere in the menu system, that would be like a good addition. I understand why they don't necessarily use their special abilities at certain times, because the game is designed for you to switch between all the characters during fights and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, or to make orders for when you want certain things to happen. So you don't want them to like set something off when you want them to save up. Use a 2 ATBs to spell. You know what I mean?
But, yes, I agree. But what you're saying is also the way to fix that problem, which is that allow me to set it so that fucking Barrett just goes ham and constantly uses all of his abilities because his auto attacks are like shit. And every time his ATB bars up, he should be using an ability and not just sitting there doing squat all. And I should be able to set Aerith to like healing duty. Make sure you're always like using pray, the ability.
Auto cura materia.
It's not the same. It's not the same. And for the most part, it does work because there's not so much going on. But I feel like in the more intense battles where you're trying to block and dodge as whatever character you're playing as, it's very easy in that moment to not be able to quickly enough remember to open up all the other menus and assign abilities for characters while you're trying to block and roll and auto attack to build up that character's ATB bar. And these other characters, I just look around and they're just standing there blocking. I'm like, fucking attack, do something. Like, I'm the one being attacked. Why aren't you fucking attacking? Like, so I got a little bit annoyed with it. I feel like I'm overacting probably a little bit more in the way I feel. Like, for the most part, I really enjoyed it. It was only during some of the more harder fights and when I tried playing the game on hard mode that it became super fucking annoying that certain characters weren't doing certain things. But the combat overall is a nice mix between the original game and a more up-to-date game. That's my overall thoughts, I guess, combat and story-wise. What are your thoughts, because you haven't played the original before? So are you enjoying the story and the characters and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the story so far. I think there's certain characters like, who the fuck is this? And then they don't really expand on them very much, like the Turks and that kind of thing. Again, I'm enjoying the story. I think I'm only like 18 hours in, so I'm like halfway through it again, apparently. Which is surprising. Well, not really based on where I am at the moment. There would be more after that, but I thought it was closer to the end than it possibly was. They included some weird stuff, some stuff that you would think maybe they'd update that. Maybe they'd make some small changes. especially within the war market.
I mean, that's not a spoiler. They've had it in the trailers. The part in the original game where Cloud has to dress up and pretend to be a lady to sneak into a place is still in the game. So
yeah, I'd be interested to see reaction to that. I don't think it's too bad. I think because it's so short and for a purpose.
They changed a lot of the dialogue so it was less like, oh my god, ooh, he's dressed up as a girl. Like the fact that no one is like
it's like the opposite kind of.
Yeah, like everyone's kind
Eric's reaction is like, yeah,
make a good chick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even not to like go big spoilers, but by the time when you actually get into Don's house, and when eventually he realizes that Cloud is a man, he doesn't go like, he's not like, oh, that's disgusting. He's just like, oh, like I feel like the subtle changes kind of make the whole thing work a little bit better than it did in the original, because in the original it was a lot more like, oh my god, and also they changed another part there where it seemed like, I mean, to put it in kind of layman's terms, it seems a bit rapey with basically what he's doing in that house. Whereas, and you could still get that implication.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
It's not as pretty much straight up in your face that's what's happening. So it's a weird one. They've kept it as much as the original as they can, I guess, but also tweaked it so it's less like going to be controversial, I guess.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Like small little things, some of the side quests like kind of basic and that kind of thing, fetch quests kind of things. It looks beautiful, incredible. Like, sure, there's some certain bits that don't look great, but like when you're walking, there's like a section where you're walking above the city on one of the plates, and you look down, you can see the entire slums have been completely drawn out and that kind of stuff. So that looks really good. So yeah, I'm having a good time. I'm keen to finish it and see where the rest of the story goes. So.
You won't know.
It definitely feels. It definitely feels more like a TV adaptation of like a smaller book. Like they've expanded on it feels like they've expanded on everything. So
yeah, I'm gonna be really interested to know how you feel when you finish the game, because there's definitely two audiences and two audience reactions to this. It's like OG players when they finish the game, they're gonna be like, they're either going to like where they leave it and what they do, or they're going to hate it. And I think there's going to be people on both sides. But equally, I do think that I'm going to be interested to know what people like you think when they finish the game, because I think that the game, as much as it's nice to dive in as a new player for like that first half-ish, then it starts getting to a lot of points where characters are mentioning things and they never answer them. Characters show up and they're never answered. Little plot strings and whatever else are kind of thrown into your face. And I know where they all go, right? So it's not bothering me as I'm playing it, but I can't help but wonder if, so like you finish the game, you're like, well, what the fuck did that mean? What was that? What was that? Like, how does this? Now I have to wait how many years to find out what this was, what that person was, who this was, you know? Like,
I definitely get the feeling that at the end of this, I'm going to be like, should I just boot up the original version and play it on my PS4? Just play through that instead of waiting to find out the story, instead of waiting 25 years.
That's what I'm wondering, how many people are going to end up doing that, honestly, especially if this
game if they were smart, they would have just done like a slightly better up-res version of 7 that gets released like a week or two after.
I mean, I think that, and I think that the most annoying, the difference between like a new game coming out and leaving cliffhangers is no one else knows what happened, really. And you usually, or even if they do, like say a movie comes out and it's an adaptation of a book, usually that's a different sort of case, because you usually know the next one's coming like next year, like a year and a half away. You know, when they adapt all the Hunger Games or whatever, they were coming out every year or so. You have a rough idea how long you've got to wait. And then if you're someone like me and I really like a movie that's based on the book, I make the decision to either ignore it and purposely not look up anything, or purposely not go read the book and just enjoy the movies as they come out. Or sometimes I do watch a movie and like that. Like I remember watching the first Hunger Games movie in this example and being like, I really like that. And then I went and read all of the books and caught up before the second one came out. But the difference between this is that you finish this, there's so much of the game left, because as I said, the original, this is 4 hours of the original, so you could catch up.
I think you're being hyperbolic.
No,
surely it can't be.
No, I'm not joking. It is. You could probably speed play it faster than that without fucking around. It is such a small section. Pretty much put it this way. This section of this Final Fantasy Remake, the section of this game, because this is the other thing. People are being really coy about where the game ends. I don't think it's a spoiler to say where it ends because I think it's pretty fucking obvious kind of where it ends. And without spoiling exactly where it ends where the game opens up in the original. Because in the original, Midgar...
The spot where we all thought it would.
Yeah, the spot where everyone thought it would end, roughly around there, is where the game ends. That I really don't think that is a big spoiler to people, because if you don't know, you don't know. If you do know, then you're like, yeah, that's probably what I thought anyway. So what the hell does it matter? But in the original, this Midgar section, in a lot of ways, it's just like a tutorial, prologue-y type section. You know. Introduces you to a bunch of characters, sets up the world, sets up the bad guys, etc., etc., etc. And then, because it's all like these enclosed sections of the game, you know, there's not much open worldiness to it. You don't have much player choice. It's like, go here, do this, battle this, do that, blah, 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 blah. And then it opens up to the world map, as classic Final Fantasy games do. And it's like, well, you've got to go to this town, but you can just fucking farm in the world map if you want to. Go over here, go to this place. Eventually, spoilers, you get a fucking ship like you do in every Final Fantasy game. You can fly around to different locations and whatever else. There are secret characters, or the quote-unquote secret characters, but there are characters you can get to your party only if you stop at certain locations. And if you don't, you just pretty much miss them and you won't get them in your party. Like, that's the majority of Final Fantasy VII is all of that. This part is such a minuscule. It's important as fuck part of the game, but it is a minuscule part of the game in retrospect. Like there's 3 discs for the PS1 game. This isn't even the end of the first disc. You know, if you want to put it into, like, it would have made more sense if Final Fantasy Remake this ended where the first disc ended. You'd be like, okay, so each disc is going to be a game, and that would be very easy to quantify, you know, like I'd be like, okay, so there's 2 games left, two discs left. But the way looking at it now, it's like, okay, so I guess there's 6 games left. You know, it's really hard to work out what they would cut and what they wouldn't cut and how it works out. And they haven't said, they have gave zero idea to the development plan. And I think in this case, it's actually kind of annoying because lots of new players are going to be like, okay, so when's the next one? 5 years from now? Yeah. I ain't fucking waiting. I'll just look it up. You know, I'll go play the original. And then maybe if they play the original, the second one comes out, they're like, well, I won't buy it day one now because I only played the original recently, so I'll just might wait and pick it up on sale now. You know, I feel like not having a rough plan out in the open is kind of going to be a potential detriment to this game for people.
Yeah. I suspect, based on the level of detail in this game and then how long it's taken them to make it, it's probably like another 5 years before we see another one.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years.
I'm sure there's some assets you can reuse, obviously, all the characters and that kind of thing, but it's going to take a while.
That is literally it. The only things they can carry over from this game are the character models. Especially because the reason this game's 2 discs on PS4 is because they're like, every asset in the game's unique because they handcrafted Midgar, basically. So if they want to continue that process into the rest of the game, well, luckily it's going to be a PS5 game because they wouldn't be able to do that on a PS4 game. It just would not have the ability, I don't think. It just would break. My PS4 sounded the loudest it's ever been playing this game. It sounded like it was going to fucking blow up. It really is. People are like, we don't need next gen. I'm like, have you fucking heard my PlayStation playing Final Fantasy VII Remake? It's pushing it to its limits, I swear. You know? It's fucking PS4 Pro. Normal PS4. Yeah. What's your PS4 sound like?
I know it's in a cabinet, so I can't. I got headphones
it's fucking on. Burning in there, I reckon.
Yeah, there's probably like the wall behind it's like burnt out. Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. The other little thing that's like kind of annoying, they've got a bunch of like small mini games throughout the entire game that they only like use once.
Yep.
It's kind of annoying. Some of them are like you can't really get. You just randomly succeed. Like a lot of the like switches and that kind of thing at different points that seem to be just randomly chucked in to create an obstacle for you to get past.
Yeah, there's one of the worst things this game has in it is they've included this section that was in the original where you have to move these fucking hands, which were like puzzles in the original as well. And for whatever reason, they've included these puzzles in this, but it's the most tedious bullshit thing in the whole game, pretty much. I hated that. The rest of the mini games I don't mind, like the darts, pull-ups, push-ups, whatever. All these random sorts of.
Those are like you can choose to do those ones.
Yeah, you can choose to do those ones, but it's they're all from the original. And also there is another mini game that's part of the Don Corleone thing. That was probably one of the best parts of the game, in my opinion. Like
the rhythm-based sequence.
Yeah, the rhythm-based thing. That was not an original game. I mean, that segment happens, but the way
not like that.
Not like that. Like it's more like, hey, yeah, here's the thing. All right, bye. In this game, they're like, hey, rhythm-based thing happened. It's like really cool. I was like, this is great. This is a spin-off title all in its own. Really, with this mini game,
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, neither would I at this point. Yeah. Any other things you can think of now?
No, not at the moment. I'll see
when dislikes.
Finish the game. Maybe we'll do a spoiler discussion when we can get somebody else on.
Yeah, I think we should, because I'll definitely want to discuss the ending, and I definitely think being able to discuss like and have you just be able to be like, well, what was this thing and what was this thing? I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I definitely I still want to be able to be like, yeah, that's a thing that's not answered until probably the fucking 6th game of this, and they tease it in this for some reason. There's like, without going major spoilers, there's a moment coming up shortly to you soon, right, where they have a character show up on screen for 3 to 4 seconds, right? And I go, oh, that's cool, because they are someone who eventually becomes part of your team in the original game. However, that's it. If you've never played the game, you'll see this person for 3 or 4 seconds, and they stand out because they don't look like anyone else in the game. They are a very unique looking character, and you'll be like, oh, wait, what the fuck was that? Like, why did they show me this? Who is that? Why are they there? You know, there's just so many random like teasers. It's an interesting title. It's an interesting game. Also, what do they call the second one? Final Fantasy VII Remake 2? What a stupid title, probably.
I mean, they'll probably give it like a colon something.
I saw actually, do I have my phone here so I can get this correct? But let's see if I've got it here, because it was the best fucking thing I think I've seen. Waypoint. Here we go. Waypoint Radio. Right, Vice Games. Their podcast title that I saw pop up before was Episode 304, Final Fantasy VII over 1/3 make. It's like
I mean, it's not as bad as that new Nier remaster.
Oh, Nier 0.1117876547. Yeah, that's great. Everyone's going to know that. Go into your local EB Games. Hey, can I pop a pre-order down for fucking Nier Remake 0.176784447? I love coding. Give me the game.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the news then. So, obviously, Last of Us 2 was delayed with no new release date in sight. You would have seen and heard about this by now. However, we have a comment from Neil Druckmann about it that IGN has written here. So, he told the official PlayStation podcast, it's a bit rough. You're working on something for so long, some of us for years, and there's a built-in anticipation and when you're doing this thing. Like, you can't wait for this thing that you've been crafting and honing and sometimes dreaming about. You can't wait to get it into people's hands and see their reactions, see what they like and didn't like, and where the story takes them. And now you got to put all that in hold because the world is conspiring against us. He continued to say, internally we know that we have a great game and it just has to wait a little bit longer to get it out there to fans. I know fans are disappointed, and believe me when I say this, we're just as disappointed, if not more so, to not be able to get the game out there on time. IGN writes, on the question of why not release The Last of Us 2 digitally on the planned date, Druckmann explained there's still no new plan yet, but the key priority is getting the game to all fans, not just some, saying, quote, well, there just hasn't been a final decision yet. Right now, we're just reacting. You know, it's a different different retail chain, whether we could get physical copies to people, what is the internet infrastructure there to support in all countries. This is a worldwide game that people in every country are waiting for, and we want to make sure we're fair. If we just get it to a small fraction of people, what about all the people that don't get it? Right now we're looking at all sorts of different options. What's the best way to get it to all of our fans as soon as possible? But that's going to take some time for us to shift and figure things out, and also see where the world's at. You know, things are changing from day to day. So not to go, but obviously there was conspiracy theories about that them using as an excuse to finish up the game because it's not done. That's a load of baloney. They're delaying it because they won't be able to. I think like there's 2 points to this, and they both match up. Sony will not want to is happy to delay this because they want to be able to get it into stores and sell as many as they can. Sony wants to make money, and that's fair. They're a fucking company, right? You can't. That's not a negative point. I'm just saying it because it's a factual point. Naughty Dog, I could definitely understand his point of view, like Neil Druckmann and other people there potentially being worried about the game getting out early, like Final Fantasy VII, and then having people in Australia spoil it for people in America if we got it early. You know, this sort of scenario. You don't want that happening, because although that's Square Enix has just been pulling videos down. But I guarantee it would be way worse for The Last of Us, because kind of everyone went into Final Fantasy VII assuming that, I've played the game, I could have nothing spoiled. You could have stuff spoiled. And the Last of Us thing is you could definitely have the whole fucking game spoiled. So it's like if you can't get it out to at least 90% of the world at the same time, definitely going to have to rework the game plan. And I guess the big question is now, where the fuck does The Last of Us come out, or what the hell happens with The Last of Us? Because, as I said at the top of the show, in the announcement of this, they also said that Ghost of Tsushima is still coming out June. So that either means that Last of Us is now going to come out after that, or Last of Us is just going to come out very close to that, and then potentially bury Ghost of Tsushima. And that's going to be annoying for Sucker Punch. So I don't know. What do you reckon? After or before at this stage?
Well, I would assume after. That's assuming that Ghost of Tsushima is still going to end up being released at that time, which who knows at this point.
Yeah. What's day to day?
They're gonna have the same logistical problems potentially.
I guess they've got more
things
time.
Don't seem like they're getting too much better.
They got more time to prepare, though. I guess. Like now.
Yeah, that's true.
They could be making sure they've got blank discs on the way from Officeworks or whatever they need to burn these copies.
Everybody at PlayStation headquarters has got a different CD drive, burning a copy of Ghost of Tsushima at the moment.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Also, they're going through Officeworks and they're like buying these packs. You know? You only allow one pack of burnt discs. Yeah, no problem. So every Sony employee has to go through it separately. So they can get all the different games. Yeah. It's really weird. Also, they've pulled the digital pre-orders for The Last of Us off the PlayStation Store now. I was reading right before we started recording. So that's no longer up, and neither is Iron Man VR pre-orders, because that was, of course, the other game that's got delayed but kind of gets buried heavily below the Last of Us delay factor. But both of those games now had their pre-orders pulled from the store.
That's interesting.
I think the only thing I've been thinking about this story, because of course it happened like nearly a week ago, like it happened 2 days after we recorded last week or whatever. I kind of wish, and I know they have no idea, but I kind of wish just so to keep people less worried, that they had given a rough estimate of what their plan is and just been a bit more open, you know? Because I honestly feel like this is the kind of case where they could have been like, look, if all the cards fall in our place, we're hoping to get this out. If we can get everything working and we've got some ideas to solve some of our logistical problems, we're looking to hopefully get it out in August now. Or something, September now. You know, I feel like in this time and with what's happening at the moment, just straight up being more honest and being like, look, we're going to try and hit this date, but if we can't, we can't, but we're going to try. And just be more open with everyone. So everyone's not freaking the fuck out and everyone has a like rough idea of where they're trying to hit, if they can hit it. You know, just be more open. No,
I mean, I feel like they just don't want to put any dates on it because they're scared that they won't be able to hit them. So, and they want to avoid another group of angry people getting upset that they're still not getting the game at the moment. So,
I mean, you've already got the amount of people I see upset about this news, which is something weird because I don't think anyone should be upset, is quite alarming. The amount of people that are like, oh fuck, what, they're only doing this because they care about money. Why not just put it out for us that can get it? Blah 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 blah. You know, like etc etc etc. These, oh, I'll buy it digitally. Just do that. Blah blah blah. The amount of people I've seen acting that way is quite. It's not just one or two random people in comment threads. Like I saw the IGN story, click in the comments. Lots of people writing this sort of stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's fucking. The fuck is wrong with all of you people? Because I get it. Obviously, it's disappointing. We were all looking forward to playing it. I understand that. Go fucking play something. Like, it's not the end of the world, Jesus Christ. And also, they're not conspiring against you to delay it on purpose because the game's broken or some bullshit like that. Anyway, I really don't know what they do.
I'd be interested. Well, the thing that came to mind just recently is the Last of Us 2 multiplayer thing that they were talking about. Could that be something that potentially now gets either released first or is incorporated in the final project?
No. Because they're all still working from home.
That's true.
And if you're going to assume that a potential Last of Us 2 multiplayer was in like very early of development, if they're all trying to work from it from their home PCs...
But the game is finished. They've got months now to...
Look, you don't create a multiplayer mode in a couple months, Ash. I hate to spoil it.
It's not created. It's worked on.
Oh. I mean, they could use this time, I guess, if it was close and it's a thing that actually exists to do such a thing. But A... As far as we know, it doesn't exist. And B, they're all working from home, and it's going to be really hard to work on such a thing.
Listen, so, I just want to give some hope to some people.
Well, you know, just let's all just be real. You know, just be real. Give people hope, but be real. There's a fine line. So the other thing that happened last week from PlayStation was they had this little indie video stream thing with a bunch of trailers that played earlier in the week. So it was 5 games that they announced coming to PlayStation 4. I think it was
the same day. Like literally the same time as the Last of Us news. So, you know, these completely got buried.
It did, amongst all that. It was really silly. But I guess they potentially had this set up weeks ago to do. And then the Last of Us news might have been a overnight decision. Well, not like overnight they made it overnight. They'd been talking about it for a long time, but maybe they were like, fuck it, pulled the plug overnight kind of thing. Either way, so Kotaku writes, John Wick, Hex, and some other indie games are headed to PS4, and they've got the list here. So earlier today, Sony published a series of surprise posts over on the European PlayStation blog revealing about 5 new games headed to PlayStation 4. It's odd but intriguing bunch, some of which we already knew about, others we're seeing for the first time. Here they are. So the first one is called Biped. I'm just going to read all their descriptions on Kotaku here. This one's co-op adventure game from Next Studios, makers of the beautiful gothic puzzle Iris Fall. It takes place on an alternate Earth devoid of human life where you need to explore, climb, and overcome ragdoll physics as creatures with only 2 limbs. It's already out on Steam. So I'd seen this before at some place. I don't remember where, but I do remember seeing a trailer for it at some stage. It looks pretty cool. You basically play as these 2 robot things, and it's a co-op puzzle game. If you've got someone to play it with, I'm sure it could be a bunch of fun, but it wasn't blowing me away simply because I'm like, well, this is going to be terrible in single player. But if you've got someone to play it with, it does look like a fun puzzle co-op game where you've got to use each other as tools or coordinate different things at the same time, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not all the same. Like there's platformy type things. There's another segment here where they're like in water rapids and climbing stuff at the same time. Like it looks interesting.
Yeah. If you're self-quarantined with somebody, it's a game.
Yeah. if you are self-quarantined with someone else, it's the time for this and Overcooked and whatever else to shine on your gaming console of choice.
Moving out.
Yeah, moving out's going to hopefully do quite well now, I guess. John Wick Hex was the next one. It's announced to be coming out May 5th. I have already played this one, and there is, of course, a review up at explosionrock.com. It came out last year. I played it on PC. I think I gave it like a 7-ish or somewhere around there. 7.5, 7, something like that. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I had some problems, not like major ones, but like the combat wasn't as fully developed for a full John Wick experience, in my opinion, and the story is very much throwaway. But it's from what's his name? Bithell, yeah, John Bithell, right? Bithell Games. So if you played Volume and all that, Thomas Was Alone, his games, and the way this John Wick game works is that you walk. So it's like a strategy game, but like action melded at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain, and I'm going off memory, but so you click or you whatever, however it works on PlayStation. But on PC, I would click somewhere, and John Wick would be like, it would begin walking down a corridor, right, in real time. And then if an enemy spots him or he spots an enemy, the game will freeze, and then it'll let you make actions. So shoot someone, roll to a different point of cover, run up to them and attempt to do a melee move, all these sorts of things. And whatever the action you choose, it gives you how much time it'll take. Like to do this will cost 0.4 seconds, blah, blah, blah. And everything in the game takes time. So reloading your weapon takes 0. something seconds. Doing a melee move takes X amount of seconds and whatever else. So it all takes time. And so the game is at its best when you're kind of surrounded by enemies, and then you can see like, oh, that enemy over there is going to hit me in 1.4 seconds. So that's when they're about to shoot me. So I have to get out of range of them, and there's an enemy right in front of me. But if I attempt to melee hit them now, I will do that, but then the bullet will hit me and I'll die. So I should probably just roll to cover. And that's where all the strategy comes in. My complaints about the lack of stuff was there wasn't just quite enough options in the combat for me. I felt like there could have been a few more to give it a true sort of John Wick experience, because he's obviously in the movies, he's John Wick. He can do fucking everything. He can fly nearly, all this sort of stuff. And then also the story basically just has this villain that's never in the movies, kidnaps the two other main characters from the movies, the caretaker dude and the lobbyist who serves, if you've watched the movies, Anyway, those two characters get kidnapped and John Wick just has to save them. It's a throwaway story, but the strategy of the game is quite fun. So if you like John Wick or you like strategy games, I would suggest picking that one up when it comes out next month, because it is a good time. Go read my review for PC. Do that. Windbound. Oh, hold on. You going to play that? Checking? Now it's on PlayStation? John Wick?
Probably not.
No?
No.
I thought it might be close to somewhere. You like a little bit of the strategies?
I mean, not the moment.
Not the moment?
We'll see. I've got another game to finish, so.
Do you? This is out May 5th.
Well, who knows? We might be finished by then. We'll see.
It's a month away.
Yeah.
What else you got to play in a month?
I don't know.
I was like, how long do you think Final Fantasy is going to take you?
I don't know. Another 20 hours?
Yeah. Another month. Next one is Windbound, coming out August 28th. This is coming to everything as well, PS4, Xbox, Switch, PC. Revealed for the first time today, Windbound is a survival game that's giving me major Wind Waker vibes. You have to explore an island, scavenge for resources, and then use them to create boats to reach other islands and uncover some mystery about a forgotten people. It's by 5 Live Studios, which made Satellite Rain, a cyberpunk tactics game that Windbound could not look much more different from. So it looks pretty cool. It does the 100% like the Wind Waker vibes. You're floating around on this boat. Art style's got similar, but not quite there sort of thing. But if you look at some of the wider screenshots, it definitely looks Wind Waker-ish. And then you've got combat happening where it seems it's like, an enemy attack, so you dodge, roll out of the way, and then get your hit in. So it seems like I'll have Like you can't just hack and slash your way. It seems like methodical combat to it of some sorts. But don't really get much vibe of the story or anything like that from this, or like how potentially long it would be and that sort of thing. But could be all right. I'm intrigued, but not blown away, I guess. The next game is the one I fucking want to talk about because the concept alone I love. So this Going Under comes out September. This is coming to everything as well. Going Under is a colorful roguelite that uses the ruins of failed startups for its dungeons. You play as an intern whose job ends up being to fight monsters in the basement so that entrepreneurs above can cash in on their schemes uninterrupted. Bleak stuff, but also really pretty looking. It's a debut project of Seattle-based studio Aggro Crab Games. So yeah, this looks really cool and I want to play this because it just, even the concept alone is quite funny that you got to fight through dungeons of failed startups with all these fucking monsters. And then watching the trailer, it seems like it's going to have some sort of like socially aspect to it where your character's talking to people when you're not dungeon crawling or whatever you're dungeoning, talking to all these characters and having stuff play out in the real, I don't know, it's Persona really. You're talking to these other employees in real time and then you're going to fight the intern dungeons in the roguelite afterwards. And I guess when you die, you spawn back in the real world and do it again. Something like that because it's a roguelite, so don't know fully. But I like it.
Looks like a good piece of escapism for people at the moment going to a workplace.
Yeah. Yeah. Or for people who can no longer go to workplaces and want to remember what it was like. Here, play this game where you see all these horrible monsters at your failed tech startups. And then the last game was Boundary, and it's coming sometime this year, apparently, to PS4 and PC. This one is a first-person shooter, but in outer space. I originally thought it might be a VR game, which would have been extra terrifying, but thankfully, its Cosmic Terror is only 2D. Part physics simulator, part small arms gun show. It has a lot in common with Surgical Scalpel Studios' previously unreleased project Frontier, which was being made for VR. So yeah, this looks graphically exciting, but at the end of the trailer it does say this footage is all from PC, but you're literally just a little space dude fighting other space dude fighting around space with fucking guns and shooting and whatever else. I don't really know the story for why these people are doing this and what's going on, but stands out amongst FPS potentials, I guess, for the time being. But I mean, it didn't blow me away, but I was like, okay. I mean, it's different enough. Do you have any thoughts on this one or the last one?
No, I mean, it looks interesting. Like, how do guns work in space and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting if they get the physics and everything correct or feels good. Different setting and that kind of thing, so it could be interesting.
Yes, they showed that trailer. It's like they strapping them to the suit and doing this whole stuff.
So they have to give air to the magazine or whatever so it can fire.
Oh shit! Next level. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it has like I don't know if it's single player plus multiplayer. The trailer makes it look like it's a multiplayer.
Yeah, kind of
only thing potentially. I'm not really too sure because like. At the top, you'll notice several times in the trailer, it's like it has a blue and a red, like team-based score type thing happening. But anyway, they were the 5 random games that Sony decided to reveal the same day they decided to delay the biggest game of the year. So that's that's what happened with that, everyone. Let's go into number 1 segment of this show. That's right. It's Uncharted movie update time. I figured because I got one story this week that I was going to chuck into the news, but I was like, fuck it. You know what we haven't mentioned? That in case you don't know, everyone, we should take a moment of peace and say Nate no. Because the movie has been delayed. Of course it has. Coronavirus has fucking causing everything to be delayed.
Coronavirus strikes again.
I gotta be honest. I did laugh originally when, like, because this was like a month ago, I think now, when it was like, I just didn't mention on here yet, but when it got delayed, I was like, of course it did.
Of course it pushed to December next year, I believe.
Yeah. My head. Whole fucking year.
Well, they haven't shot it. And again, they didn't move the Spider-Man release date with all the dates that the Marvel reshoot all the movies, but I suspect that's going to be Tom Holland's priority out of these two projects.
Yeah. Probably obligated to as well. What I did find funny, though, was this story from DualShockers.com, which says, they write, on a recent episode of Retro Replay, a Let's Play series featuring Nolan North and Troy Baker, they discussed the Uncharted movie as well as the upcoming Last of Us HBO series. Nathan Drake's voice actor stated that he probably was more excited for the HBO adaptation of The Last of Us than he was for the Uncharted movie. Troy Baker still doesn't even think the movie will ever release in the first place. He's not alone in that statement. North stated, quote, I think that the fact that they're going to make it The Last of Us a series is way better than making a movie out of anything. I think having the guy who did Chernobyl is the freaking elephant in the room that you need to get things done. I'm more excited about that, I got to be honest, than I am about the Uncharted movie. I love Mark Wahlberg, but I don't see him as Sully. I just don't see that as Sully. Baker then added, quote, I don't see that thing, Uncharted movie, happening at all. Additionally, he believes that turning games into episodic series translates much better than turning them into movies. He also stated that it helps that Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin are clear on their vision. Baker also believes that condensing a 12 to 16-hour game into a 2-hour-long movie is much more challenging because there's so much onboarding that has to happen. So I find it quite funny that the guy who, like, just to put it into perspective for everyone, let's boil it down and remember for a second. Mark Wahlberg was originally going to play Drake. That never happened for so long that he is now playing Sully. Now, the original actor of the video games of Nathan Drake, of which Mark Wahlberg was originally going to play that character, is now being told by that voice actor that he should not play Sully because you don't see him as Sully. I got a question for you, Nolan North. Would you see him as Drake? Because that was going to happen as well. Or was you just like, Mark Wahlberg, stay the fuck out of my franchise? You do not belong here.
I mean, yeah. I'd be interested to know if they know that it's a prequel, because the way they're talking about it, they're talking about a game being condensed to a 2-hour movie. Whereas this is clearly an original story set before the games, not taking... I
think that was just like a...
very little from the games.
I think that comment was
a general
just
statement.
General, like comparing Uncharted to the way they're doing The Last of Us, where they're doing it episodic. I think he was like trying to prove a point that makes more sense to boil down a 16-hour movie into a TV show rather than a movie, if you're going to do it that way. But also, I would not be surprised if they had no fucking idea what the plot of the Uncharted movie is.
I mean, does anybody? Let's be honest.
No.
Ruben Fleischer came on to direct a week before they were going to start shooting.
And then coronavirus happening, I was like, oh, thank fuck.
Thank fuck, now I can read the script.
Now I've got time to read the script. Maybe look up what the fuck these video games are. Jesus.
Now he's got time to pull out, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he definitely will. This is a Platinum Explosion special where myself and Kieran are replaying The Last of Us and discussing our adventure ahead of The Last of Us Part 2. Today, we're talking about Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. That is the Outskirts plus Bill's Town. This is probably a lot longer than the time we talked about last week. I'd say the overall playtime of this is, I don't know, like around 3 hours worth, I guess. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's a little bit louder than previous ones. But we'll talk about the Outskirts first. So playing through the Outskirts kind of builds up the tension a bit more. You run into more enemies through this section, a lot more infected. You run into your first clicker here. So I want to talk about them first, because even though we're both playing on easy,
I gotta say,
yeah, which it's solely because. By the way, people, in case you don't know, you can play games on easy if you just want to have a chill out time, you know?
If you just want to play something for the story and you just want to get through it. I was joking with I saw my dad earlier today, and my dad plays everything on easy just because he's old and doesn't have the reaction times or whatever.
And it makes time easier. Like, who's got the time? Like,
yeah, exactly. Who's got the time to invest everything?
Yeah.
But I was making jokes about him. I'm like, because Dad doesn't like playing stealth areas. He just runs through shit, killing everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm very much like in this game. When stealth breaks down, I used to pretty much just auto-fail the area because I'd have to just restart and try again. This time it's like, I'll just pull the shotgun out and just blow everything away. And there's a billion ammo everywhere. We're fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so playing this game on easy is I wouldn't say it means you can run around like you got infinite health, but it does certainly make the stealth sections a little bit easier. But I also found it interesting that I still found running into clickers for the first time still like quite scary, and I was like straight away just like trying to stealth them all, even though I'm like maybe like, but then I'd look at my ammo and I'm still like I've only got like 8 bullets. I probably still do have to try and like stealth this section. And I got fucking headphones on, and then just like the noises they made, I'm like, I forgot clickers are scary.
You do get enough materials. Generally, whenever you kill a clicker, there is enough materials to replace the shiv that you use to kill them, generally somewhere nearby. So I've slowly got to the point where I'm like less and less worried about them because I'm like, I'll just use the shiv now and then I'm good.
Yeah, I forget if they do grab you, you get that. As long as you've got a shiv, you're good.
Yeah, as long as you've got a shiv, you're okay. You're A-okay, you're fine.
You will survive, yeah. One other thing I wanted to point out during this outskirts section here in the lead up as because a lot of this section level of the game is obviously just combat as you work through to get to the drop-off point for Ellie. But there's a room where you enter eventually after a while. I can't remember, near the end here or something. Couldn't remember where I was, but I wrote down my notes. Where Ellie mentions the events of the Left Behind DLC, which I never picked up on the first time.
Is that in this bit? I thought that was in Billstown.
It could be in Billstown, but whatever.
No, sorry. I'm thinking of the arcade machine towards Billstown, which is a little bit different. Because she talks about I can't remember the girl's name from Left Behind in that section.
Oh, does she? I missed that interaction then.
There's you're missing those. Oh, Dylan, you're ruining everything. God, you're just trying to motivate. Interesting
because as I said last week when talked about it, I never played it again after the first time. So I played through the whole game once, obviously, and then the Left Behind DLC came out after the game. So I played that a couple of months when that originally dropped on PS3. But I haven't replayed the game ever since playing the Left Behind thing. So now then when she starts talking about that, I'm like, oh, that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. She's mentioning the thing. Like, that's a thing. And by the way, yes, we will be talking about the Left Behind DLC in a couple of weeks. Gonna drop it I'm dropping it in at a point that I thought, like, if I was turning this into a movie or something, it would like thematically kind of work out there, kind of thing. So anyway, right. So let's talk about the big thing in the outskirts, though, which of course is the end. You finally get to the point where the Fireflies are supposed to meet up with all of yous and do the drop off point. I think obviously if you're even if you're playing the game for the first time and you're working your way through it and you're actually looking around, you can find a dead Firefly at some point who's got a note like, make sure the girl's okay and all this sort of thing. It's like you're finding a dead Firefly. You're like, things probably aren't going to work out well for us here as we continue on. And of course they don't, because when you enter the meetup point, all the Fireflies are dead. And then Tess reveals that she was in fact bitten at some point within the next hour or so. And you have this whole scene play out where she pretty much pushes Joel to do the job, like deliver Ellie to the Fireflies. And I think even more, I'm noticing it even more playing it this second time, is that I really think it's interesting how they underplay Joel and Tess's relationship. But also I feel that if their relationship isn't as close as it is, even if they're underplaying it heaps, but it's like they are just like really close. And I would say, obviously, I think, romantically involved.
There's
but
definitely.
They just say they don't get into it in the game because I guess it's like, well, what's the point? Like, there's no time for this. Does it really matter? Is it really affect how it emotionally affects Joel? Not really. But it's like when Tess dies, and the fact that Tess is suddenly 100% on board as like Ellie obviously has a chance to create a cure and all these sorts of things. The only reason I say that Joel even pushes on with trying to deliver Ellie is it's all for Tess. Like the rest of the game is for Tess, really, at this point.
I think at this point, for the next until Ellie and Joel's relationship begins to grows more and more, then it's about that. I think, but yeah, definitely at the moment, it's Tess told him to do it. So
he still very much is like, I don't believe. Like even shortly after this, when they're in the infected area and she doesn't have a mask on, and he's still just like, how are you able to breathe this? And she's like, I wasn't lying to you. Like he's still sus, consistently sus, and obviously doesn't believe in her being a possible way to find a cure. Whereas Tess was sort of automatically on board by the fact that she wasn't infected straight away. Whereas Tess was already, as she points out, like she's like, this is from an hour ago. Look at my fucking wound. Hers is from 3 weeks ago.
That for me though is really, because I don't remember. I think the first when I originally have played this, I've always thought that Tess got the bite before the game's event started. Like I always thought that she had the bite since before she ran into Joel at the start of the game and whatever. And then to have it this point where it's like, no, so that bite must have happened in the museum at some point.
Somewhere around there.
And yeah,
possibly
which kind
with
of
the one she was fighting off. I don't know, like when they got split up or something, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, and I don't think. I guess there is definitely subtle ways you can be like, oh, okay, yeah, she's definitely trying to, push Joel towards Ellie and stuff a little bit more because she knows she's a goner. And I think, and even just the moments afterwards where Ellie's trying to console Joel about it, and Joel's just like, shut up, don't talk to me about Tess. Don't.
He's like, here's the rules. You don't bring her up. We never talk about it again. You do what I say. Now shut the fuck up. Like, let's go. It's very much like him still just being like, I don't like this, but I'm going to, that's what I'm saying. Like, it is like, I'm going to see this through because of Tess, but also I'm a big, tough, burly man. And I don't have time to talk about my feelings of you fucking little girl I only met 12 hours ago. Like, that's what we're doing. Let's get on with our mission here. But yeah, I just think I never noticed it so much the first time playing it, but the second time I'm like, really, most of this game is solely for Tess, which and Tess is a character that I suppose a lot of people sort of forget about in the overall bigger Last of Us picture, because by the time you get to the end of the game, everyone's like, all these other characters, and Tess is like, oh, this is she dies so early, but I'm like, she's really important, really, for Joel. She's the whole reason that Joel continues on.
Yeah, and you can see that even throughout it, and like there's a moment that I think it's post the part where she would have been bitten, where she's talking to Joel about maybe after this one we can have we can go somewhere quieter and just kind of be. And Joel's very taken aback by that and very.
He's like, you never liked that idea. You wouldn't do that, and she's like, well, maybe this time I would. Or maybe I will be down for that this time. Yeah. So once again, kind of hinting at there being something more to their relationship, I guess, than just
definitely
duo
buddies or partners or whatever.
In crime or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so then after they escape, of course, they run off. You do a little bit of an underground subway section or whatever, introduce you to the stupid mechanic that'll be picking up and floating Ellie across the water, which one thing I'm getting annoyed about this is kind of making the game show its age is A, that being a thing, and then also B, the amount of fucking ladders and like planks and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, please, part 2. None of this. None of this plank shit.
The planks do die down later in the game. I
think you'll be surprised.
Really? Because I remember that being a thing where it's like kind of they start building trust between Ellie and Joel, and then it changes how the game plays out a little bit because of it. But yeah, I guess so.
We're still a ways away. But there's like one point in Billstown where it's like you go up this section early on, you start climbing up onto the roofs or whatever. Right after you get the bow. And there's like a section where you climb up and you're like, oh, I need this plank. So then you have to climb back down, grab the plank, lean it up against that section, climb up, grab it, turn around. I'm like, why? What is this teaching me?
I remembered to put the plank up before I climbed the ladder the first time. So, big brain.
But
memory.
Still, it's not the first time we've done it at this point. So I'm like, what is the point of all this? Like gameplay wise?
Just to be more just have more kind of puzzly moments, I guess.
It's not even a puzzle.
I don't know. It's like making you like kind of live in the world and having to make do with what you've got.
There's just too many of them. It's one thing that never annoyed me the first time I played it. I remember seeing people complain about it when the game originally came out. I had a friend at the time who was like, "Oh, game's overrated. Fucking combat isn't that good, and all the planks and stuff, ladders, like bullshit." And I was like, "Yeah, you're a fucking idiot. Whatever. Shut the fuck up." But now I'm playing it this time. I'm like, "Yeah, these damn planks and stuff." I suppose it is just. It makes it feel a little bit old because I feel like if this came out now, people were like, "What the fuck?" I would be like, "Too many."
The thing for me was like coming off playing a zombie game like Days Gone. There's times where I'll start aiming and then I'll try and use Days Gone's like focus feature to slow everything down to line up shots, and Last of Us doesn't have that. So I'm like, crap, and I've already like messed up and like there's a clicker on top of me or something. It's
one thing I do feel like Days Gone helped teach me better, which is Molotovs are really great because I've got so many really sections where I just throw a bottle, send them all over there. Yep. Molotov, get them all, burn to death. I'm like, cool, Molotovs are the best weapon in this game.
Same thing, or I also did it with the nails, with the nail bomb.
Nail bombs, yeah.
I did the exact same thing. So it was like, it's like, adapting to know. And I guess those options of like Molotovs and nail bombs and stuff, I guess weren't the most valid options if you were playing on like harder difficulties where it was.
I'd probably always save them because I'd be like, I really need this later.
I'd either save them because I need it for maybe later, or I'd be worried that I'd make more noise by doing it that way and then have to worry about dealing with everything else coming around us. But
I'm like, no, I got to stealth everyone. Can't waste Molotovs. But I'm playing on easy. I'm like, it's fine.
The annoying one was I was stealthing at one point and I think a clicker came like kind of close to me, but I was like staying still and it just started turning away from me. As it started turning away from me, Tess stood up and shot it. And I was like, okay, that's just all right.
To be fair, I was probably very close. Maybe she's like, I'm saving your life.
No, I was like, I'm good. Just chill. Just chill.
So Billstown begins in this very lush green area, which when I was playing for it last night, if you can line up to find out when I was playing this by looking at my Twitter. But I did tweet out Joe because I found it so funny that walking in, Ellie's like, "Oh, this is so great," and Joel's like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh, all this green, I've never seen it before." And it reminded me of Rave from Force Awakens, where she's like, "I didn't know this much green existed in the galaxy."
Yeah, I do really like the. I like this lead into Billstown. It's a really nice change of pace considering the end of the Outskirts where you're kind of go running away from
they
fireflies.
need to calm down. They're like, here, just everyone take a second to chill.
Just chill down. You can stroll through this section. You can walk your way around this little street and explore this and find the safe code and stuff like that. I think it's nice that this game. I think this game gets its changes of pace down very well, where it slows down and lets you take in the world for a second before you're, thrown upside down and you've got to take a minute to shoot all the clickers right there.
Well, yeah, it which is exactly what it does. It's like, hey, let's calm down, walk through the town, find all Bill's booby traps. Do some world building, story building with Joel explaining that when we finally get to Bill, just shut the fuck up, Ellie, because he's a very paranoid person. You'll see just everyone shush. And then, finally you walk into that room and get thrown upside down. And so, okay, things back up to 100. Off we go again. Start running. So let's talk about Bill, obviously, because he's the main character of this whole section of the game. His relationship with Joel and Tess is never really explained, other than the fact that he owes Joel's favors for something. I guess it's sort of implied because they are smugglers, that they probably smuggled stuff for Bill in the past, or
I think Bill helped them smuggle stuff as well. Because there's a note you find in one of the rooms about him needing to gather more pills because Tess will be there for another run soon. I think there's a couple I think this part especially shows some really interesting environmental storytelling, telling the story through the notes or through different things that are in the world at the time that make you kind of see exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Well, you'll miss a lot of stuff, I guess, if you don't read the notes and find these extra things. And then it's also, I thought, interesting, to kind of back up what I was saying before about how important it is that Tess believed in this Ellie cause, which is that when Joel's talking, like Bill keeps pushing, where's Tess, and then eventually, of course, it's also funny to point out that by the time you leave Bill's town, he still has no idea Tess is dead. Joel never actually explains what's happened. Like, he still just doesn't want to talk about it. But there's that point where Bill's like, when Joel says that this job was actually Tess's idea, and then Bill's like, oh, I didn't think that she'd be so dumb to take this or the ridiculous job or whatever. So kind of just to back up the point that her belief in this really says something for her character. And I think that also backs up the point of like Joel just kind of trusting in Tess, and is like, well, her dying breath was to kind of finish the job, so I'll do it. And then I think that, of course, the big thing with Bill is that when you eventually arrive at Frank's house, his deceased partner's house, and then you can find a note in the back of the room, which, of course, if you miss out on some important information here as well, which is that the note just says, hey, Bill, I doubt you'll find this because you never come on this part of this town, but if you find it, I was trying to run away because I was sick of your shit, you fucking paranoia, but I guess you get the laugh last now because I did get bit while I was trying to leave, but anyway, fuck you, like, so, like, it's very blunt, and then Joel never, like, gives him the note, even if you pick it up or anything like that. In fact, it doesn't matter what you do, find the note or not find the note, Joel in the last moment still just says, hey, man, about Frank back there, I'm sorry, that's a big deal. And then Bill's like, cool, we're even, bye. Like, it's funny, like, all the characters in this game, when it comes to like talking about their potential loved ones, are just, everyone's got to be like Timmy Tough, like, everybody's yeah, cool, bye. Fuck you.
It's just like for them, it's, I guess, it's been 20 years living in this world where they've probably got to the point, especially these two, where they believe that emotions get you killed, like making rash emotional decisions get you.
Oh, that's what Bill believes, 100%. He's going on about, I used to have a partner, but it got in the way, like.
Yeah. And that's how he copes, is just trying to make it like that. And,
try and tell him that.
And I think it's underlying the relationship between Bill and Frank. I think it doesn't out and out tell you what their relationship was, but it's very
obvious. And it's one of those things that ever since the game came out, people are always like, oh, it's implied that they're gay. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just I think it's very obvious that they're gay, but the game doesn't go out of the way to like spell it out in a sort of unnatural storytelling way. But I'm like, by the time you get to the end of the level with all the talk about my partner and the way he looks upset and reading the note and all this sort of stuff and the bickering and back and forth, it seems, between the two of them. And if that doesn't do it for you, and then you get in Ellie's car, they get in the car and Ellie's like, oh, I stole this gay porno mag from Bill. A gay porno mag. Yeah. And then she makes jokes about this. The page has been sticky. I'm like, if at that point you're like, it is weird they imply they're gay. I'm like, imply? She's looking at a magazine, but like, oh, how's he walk around with that thing?
Far out.
But 10 years after the game's out, people are still like, oh, it's implied they're gay. I'm not sure. But Bill's an interesting character. I kind of wish we had more time with him because there is obviously a lot to him, but it's, I guess the nature of the game is you do run across characters, and we're going to run into more characters when we talk about them, but it is like you bump into them, you talk to them, you spend a chapter with them, they leave, some horrible stuff happens to them, blah, 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 blah. We're going to bump into some more characters very soon where some messed up stuff happens and then they kind of disappear, and I've always been like, well, what happened? I'd love to know more about their story prior to when we met them, but also, like after sort of thing, but just the nature of the game.
Very much so.
And then, of course, the other thing in this chapter is the introduce of the game's first boss fight, the bloater, which I remember the first time I played this on not easy difficulty. I found this to be, I was like, this shit is hard. Playing on easy, I was like, you're dead already.
This time, I didn't even get attacked by him. I threw 2 Molotovs in his direction and he burnt to death.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. So it's lucky the concept for this segment isn't talking about the difficulty of the enemies or the fights, because
and if you're like listening to these, like you've listened to the 2 segments the last couple of weeks and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to play The Last of Us again, but I don't have the time to invest in it.
Yeah, easy's way to go.
Easy is 100% the time and the way to invest it. It's a couple hours, even if you're doing it with us, it's probably 2, maybe 3 hours tops. I did it over 2 nights where I kind of did the first segment, paused it, and came back to it. And yeah, you don't like it. Literally throws materials at you.
Yep,
like I am always like stocked up on shivs and every other item, and then I'm max on them when I'm.
I run into crafting materials. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't pick this up. Oh wait, I'll craft something real quick. I've got max of everything, so I can pick it up. Like I'm constantly having to make sure I've crafted stuff so I can have space to pick more stuff up.
It's not a thing to worry too much about, and I think it makes the experience, even if you're not you're not trying to be like the most gritty and realistic for the piece experience. It's just playing it for the narrative to give you some. Because I will admit, so far, there's been a lot of stuff I've forgotten about The Last of Us that have not been like I didn't remember that you ran into Frank hanging in that house.
Oh, really?
I could not remember that at all. So there was just bits and pieces of the game where I just don't remember them. So it's just nice to have that refresher leading up to The Last of Us Part 2 where we don't know what's relevant, what's important, but it's still nice to have that connection still fresh in your mind.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that'll do it for this week's Last of Us replay talk. Next week, we will be talking about the 2 chapters, Pittsburgh plus the suburbs. So basically playing right up to kind of the chapter before we finally head over towards Tommy's area sort of thing. That's spoilers. Anyway, we'll see you then. Bye-bye. That'll do it for this week's episode of Platinum Explosion. Don't forget you can follow us all on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. That'll take you to all of our Twitters. You can suggest topics or send in questions for the show by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. And until next week, remember that every trophy counts. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.